The wet thud of a meat cleaver slicing through bone is the only sound in the apartment. Minutes ago, I was wrapped in Tristan's arms, thinking I was the only woman in his world. Now, I am vibrating with terror behind a slat door, the metallic stench of fresh blood filling my lungs. Through the crack, I see his head roll to a stop on the expensive hardwood. His eyes are wide open, staring right at me. His wife isn't just home early, she is dismantling him like cattle, and I know I'm next. I shoved Tristan away so hard he nearly fell off the bed. My skin still burned where his lips had been seconds ago. Now, a cold tremor seized my limbs. You lied to me. I pointed a shaking finger at his chest. You're married. His expression faltered. A trace of unease crossed his face, but he quickly tried to coax me. Bridget, baby, I can explain everything later. Just hide for a second, okay? No. Not okay. I was going to march out there and tell his wife exactly who I was. That her husband had been playing single for 3 months. Tristan was already moving, raising his voice to call out towards the door. Gwendolyn. Just a minute, honey, I'm in the shower. I froze. Every muscle in my body locked up. What? My voice was barely a whisper. What did you just call her? Gwendolyn Ford. My vision went black for a second. Without another word, I scrambled into the closet. The reason was simple. Gwendolyn Ford was the daughter of the chairman of the conglomerate I worked for. If it were anyone else, I would have stood my ground, cleared my name, walked away with my dignity. But the chairman's daughter. That was a death sentence for my career. Maybe my life in this city. Would she believe I didn't know? I'd never met Miss Ford personally. I didn't know her temperament. I couldn't take that risk. So I cowered in the closet, praying to a God I hadn't spoken to in years that this would be over quickly. I heard the front door open. Footsteps. 2 pairs. Moving into the living room. I thought you were still in Paris, Tristan's voice. Gentle. Loving. The same tone he used with me. Why are you back early? I missed you. Her voice was sweet. Sugary. They sat on the sofa and started whispering intimately. Gwendolyn was sitting right where I had been sitting just moments ago. And I was hiding in the closet, barely able to breathe. Suddenly, the movement stopped. Silence. What is that? Gwendolyn asked. I could picture it. Her gaze sliding over Tristan's shoulder, landing on the dining table. Tristan went rigid. 2 wine glasses. Used. Sitting right there in the open. Baby, Gwendolyn's voice had an edge to it now. You said you were home alone tonight. Tristan hesitated. Just for a heartbeat. Then, the light came, smooth as silk. Okay, you caught me. Mr. Vanderbilt from Zenith Tech was here. He wants me to co-found a startup with him. I know you hate the idea, so I didn't want to worry you. Vanderbilt is a joke, Gwendolyn scoffed, the edge gone from her voice. If you really want to start a business, I'll talk to Daddy. He can introduce you to real investors. I'll do whatever you say, Tristan murmured, pulling her close. I won't talk to him again. More kissing. Then, the sound of Gwendolyn standing up. I'll make you some tea. She really loved him. A billionaire heiress, willing to cook for him with her own hands. I heard the clink of glass. She was clearing the table. A pause. One of the glasses had my lipstick on the rim. Gwendolyn's gaze began to sweep the room. For a split second, I felt her look right at me. But maybe it was just my imagination, because in the next instant, Gwendolyn looked away. She walked to the kitchen. Tristan drank the tea. And then, silence. He had fallen asleep on the sofa. Minutes ticked by. Agony. Tristan had promised to find a way to get her out. To let me escape. But he was asleep. The closet was a coffin. I was suffocating. Then, a sound. Rustling. Plastic. Gwendolyn was spreading plastic sheeting on the floor. Snap. The sound of rubber gloves being pulled on. Then, a metallic slide. She picked up a knife. And with a single, clean motion, she chopped into Tristan's neck. Chapter R. My brain stalled. It took a full 5 seconds for the reality to process. I clamped both hands over my mouth, strangling the scream that clawed at my throat. Tristan's head rolled. It stopped, facing the closet. His eyes were open. Glassy. Vacant. Staring right at me. Gwendolyn began to work. She was efficient. Terrifyingly so. Like a butcher in a slaughterhouse. Limbs first. Then smaller sections. She moved to the kitchen. The same kitchen where Tristan had poured me wine an hour ago. She set up a large pot. I didn't need to see it to know what was happening. The first batch of meat went into the water. Bow rose in my throat. The stench of blood and boiling meat began to fill the apartment. Panic and nausea warred for dominance. I couldn't think. What do I do? Police. I need the police. I fumbled for my phone. Dead. Black screen. I peered through the slats of the closet door. Tristan's phone. It had fallen into the crevice of the sofa. I could use his phone. I tried to stand. My legs were jelly. I stumbled. My head hit the closet door with a dull thud. The chopping in the kitchen stopped instantly. The text message flashed in my mind. The mistress dies tonight. I had thought it was a prank. Now I knew. It was a promise. Regret was useless now. Gwendolyn walked out of the bedroom. In her hand was a heavy cleaver. She walked toward the closet. Stab. Bye. Stab. My teeth were chattering so hard I thought they would shatter. I bit down on my tongue until I tasted copper. The closet door was yanked open. Empty. Gwendolyn stood there, the cleaver dripping onto the floor. A drop of blood landed on my cheek. I was under the bed, right next to the closet. If she crouched down, if she just lowered her head 6 inches, she would see me. 1 second. 2 seconds. An eternity. She turned around. She walked away. The chopping resumed. I scrambled out from under the bed. I crawled to the sofa. Tristan's phone. Passcode. What was his passcode? Think, Bridget. Think. I typed in a sequence. Incorrect. Another one. Incorrect. Third try. Click. Unlocked. I almost sobbed with relief. I opened the messaging app. I couldn't call. She would hear me. I had to text 911. My fingers were shaking so violently I could barely hit the keys. I fumbled. My thumb hit the lock button. The screen went black. I cursed silently, a scream of frustration trapped in my chest. I raised the phone to unlock it again. And froze. The black screen acted as a mirror. It reflected 2 faces. Mine. Pale, terrified. And behind me. Gwendolyn. The chopping sound was still coming from the kitchen. A recording. But Gwendolyn was standing right behind me. Her eyes were huge. Black holes. Staring at me through the reflection. Didn't you get my text? She whispered. Silence. Then, I screamed. I lunged for the door. Something hard and heavy slammed into the back of my skull. The world spun and went dark. I drifted in and out. Being dragged. Gwendolyn. She was incredibly strong. She dragged me like I was a bag of laundry. She dumped me into the bathtub. Do you love him? She asked, her voice devoid of emotion. My hands and feet were bound. I couldn't stop shaking. Gwendolyn stood up. She walked toward me. I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting for the bite of the blade. Ding dong. The doorbell rang.